Okay, so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at blues. And a lot of what we're going to cover is going to be rhythmic based. Doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I just love the blues. It's had such a huge impact on my playing. Because I'm a rock guitar player and because I love rock music, blues is pretty much where it all started for rock. So if you want to be a rock guitar player, you just have to know blues. You have to. The second reason is I've got a lot of students all the time saying that they want to be a lead guitar player. They want to learn how to play lead, and they say that without most of the time without really knowing what lead means. When you're a lead guitar player, it's not that you're playing solos all the time. I mean, probably only about 20% of the time you're playing solos and doing what a guy described to me once as coloring, just playing little riffs here and there. A good 80% chunk of what you play normally is going to be rhythm. So you have to be a master of rhythm in order to be a lead guitar player. So what better place to start than the blues? So today we're going to be taking a look at some blues basics, uh, just to get you caught up with that. So we're going to take a look at the shuffle, how to play a shuffle, and some low-range rhythms with the shuffle, playing on the lower strings, and some mid-range rhythms playing on the inside strings and doing some little chord riffs. So first, let's take a look at the shuffle. All right, a beat is usually expressed as a quarter note. One, two, three, four. You can split those quarter notes up into different parts to get different rhythms. Um, you know, Dogtail hit the guitar. That's awesome. You can split up into different parts. Two different parts and you get eighth notes. One and two and three and four and three equal parts and you get triplets. One element, two element, three element, four element. And so the way that looks like this here. So your quarter notes up top. You split up into two parts. You got eighth notes. Into three parts you have the triplets. So what a shuffle does is it's going to take this triplet set and it's going to take that second note and it's going to get rid of it. So you're left with the first and third notes of a triplet set. And then you get this. This is how you write out a shuffle. This is how you express at the very beginning of a piece of music that your eighth notes are two eighth notes equal the first and third notes of a triplet set. This makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to write triplets all over the piece of music. You can just write eighth notes as normal. As long as you see that, then you know that the song is in a shuffle. So what it sounds like, taking the one lit, two lit, and taking out the of trip lit, and you're left with trip lit, trip, like that. Sounds familiar, right? So that's a shuffle. One of the more common ways of playing a shuffle that you're going to see in blues is called a boogie or boogie shuffle. Very similar to the style, the boogie-woogie style of piano in the 1930s. And Robert Johnson was the guitar player who is generally credited as being the guy who made the boogie the primary rhythm of the shuffle. So you get this with a boogie. So it's a shuffle that has some movement to it. And what you're doing is playing a five chord, and I'm tuned down a whole step, by the way, so don't let that throw you off. Like an E5, so an E and a B, and then you go up to the 6, which is the C sharp. And you just keep doing that. So that's a little bit about a boogie. So let's take a look at another different riff that you can use with a shuffle, and that is a walking bass line. So bass players, pay attention because you need to know this too. Guitar players, it's a very interesting thing to do a bass line with a guitar, but in blues happens all the time. So in kind of a low range rhythm, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to something like that. So all you're doing there with a blues walk like that is you're hitting the 1, the 3, the G, B, the 5, which is D, up to the 6, which is E, and then to the flat 7 with the dominant 7, your F. Since most of the time your chords in blues are going to be dominant chords, You're going to do the same thing when you go up to the 4 chord, which in G is going to be C, G, A, B, C. And then you're going to go back to G, and so on. So we'll take a look at that. Let's take a look at that in the context of the 12-bar blues. 12-bar blues is a 12-bar pattern just repeated throughout a song. There are many different variations that you can do with a 12-bar blues, but the more common pattern is this here. I know I'm doing a lot of writing. You've got 4 measures of 1, your 1 chord, or your root, so in G, 4 measures of G. 2 measures of the 4 chord, which in G would be C, back to 1, and then your 5, which would be D, that's right. And then to your 4 again, back to 1, and then ending with a 5, and then you start over. So typically those last 2 measures of the 12-bar blues is called your turnaround. I'll show you why that is. But I'll have this written down. I'll go through it real quick. With a walking bass line using 12-bar blues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and then you go to your 5, or sorry, your 4, which is C, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, back to G, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then to your D for 1 measure, where you're 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, then to your C, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to your G, which is going to be a little different. This is going to walk up to your 5. And then you just repeat. So that's called a turnaround. All right, so inside rhythms, using the inside strings or mid-range rhythms, you're going to be turning to the 9 chord. Now I did a lesson on the 9 chord a while back, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over that again. The 1 chord, when you're playing a 9, a way to play that, if your root note is based on the 6th string, your A, then you'd have your C sharp, your 3, the G there, which is your flat 7, the B, which is your 9, and then the 5 there, E. But since we're not playing the 6th string here, this chord doesn't have a root, so the root's implied. So it's almost like a diminished chord, actually. But if you apply that root note, which if you want to, you can use your thumb and grab that note just to, if you're more comfortable doing that. There's your 4 chord, the D9, then the 5 chord, the E9, and for your 1, instead of going back to here, you could also go up to here. So find your A, and then make your 9 chord around that. Another great way to use the inside strings for blues is these little chord riffs. So if we look at an A chord, an A7, a very common thing to do is to hammer on from the minor third really quickly up to the major third. It's a little grace note. And then another way you can play that, you can just kind of bar across these strings there, almost hitting like a D chord or like an A suspended kind of thing. So this little riff, when you're playing in A, you do the hammer. You hit that right there, kind of the D or the D over A kind of thing. And then this is another way of playing an A7 chord. So you'd get so that makes a really cool way of playing an A7 rather than just hanging on the same chord all the time. This gives the chord a little bit of movement and some added rhythm to it. And again, apply the shuffle to that. So 1, a lit, 2, a lit, 3, like we talked about before. So give that a shot. I'll have that written down too. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And stay tuned next time. We're going to take a look at kind of part 2 of this because there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to rhythm and blues. It's a lot of fun. So follow me on Twitter at The Music Corner. You can stay up to date whenever the next one is coming out. I'll see you next time.